Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Saktivel from the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. And today we have resource person is Dr. S. Balamurugan. Before introducing our resource person, there is a small announcement to all the participants. Just listen to me carefully. Regarding your e-certificates, because a lot of messages we are receiving. Regarding the e-certificates, a web link will be sent to you either in your WhatsApp or to your email after 4 o'clock, after the session is over, after 4 o'clock. Kindly log into our university website and you can download the certificates. If any individual member is facing any problem or any difficulties in downloading the application certificates, don't worry. Kindly send your details in the WhatsApp group, and our technical team, Ms. Narmada and Mr. Sivanesan, certainly they will help you. And don't worry and be patient and kindly wait 1 or 2 days. Certainly we will clear your any your issues. And coming to my younger brother, Dr. S. Balamurugan, you know him every day. He is our anchor, and today, so being he is the resource person, and I am doing the work of Dr. S. Balamurugan. And very few words about the young and dynamic man, Dr. Balamurugan. He studied political science in our university, that is Annamalai University, and joined as a faculty member at the very young age, having a rich experience in variety of fields, especially third generation human rights or rights of the tribals, nomadic communities, scheduled tribes and the marginalized community in India and other parts of Tamil Nadu. He has published books on third generation human rights, marginalized community and rights of the other, that is children, women and the people who received very minimum in the society. He is a very brilliant orator. Certainly he will prove his through his speech, certainly. And he has good experience in talking about sexual harassment against women and the preventive measures and redressal. And one significant information with regard to our resource person is, now he is our regular resource person in the university level gender sensitization program, and every year we are organizing for the welfare of the university students, and we are trying to cover every year 15,000 to 20,000 students by different faculty. So this is really a noteworthy information which most of the universities and colleges are not doing, but our university, the Department of Political Science, the head of the department and the anti-sexual harassment committee members and a resource person like Dr. Balamurugan Saktivel. So we are doing the service to the human, especially our student friends. So now it's over to Dr. S. Balamurugan, and the session will go up to 30 minutes. Again we will end the first session and kindly join with same user ID and password. Now it's time to Dr. Balamurugan.
Thank you, Professor Saktivel sir, for your generous remarks on me. I do not know whether I deserve all the remarks he has imposed on me. So, dear participants, today, first of all, I welcome, as usual, I welcome all the participants to this last day of the online course on human rights education for women. So for the last more than a week, almost 10 days, each afternoon I have been meeting you, introducing various resource persons. Today, very essential, one of the relevant topics of the training program, that is sexual harassment. Sexual harassment, and this has been the topic of this last day's lecture. So, the sexual harassment of women at the workplace, prevention, prohibition, and redressal. Sir, initially Saktivel sir has pointed out that in our university, we have been conducting this sensitization program for all the students of different faculties, starting from medicine or agriculture or commerce or arts or science faculty, engineering faculties, and sensitizing the students about the 2013 Act on Sexual Harassment, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal. And after the sensitization program, they have seen a remarkable increase in the gender related problems have been decreased. So that is the one thing. So when we discuss about conducting a program on human rights education for women, and we in the department decided to introduce one particular topic, that is this one, sexual harassment of women at the workplace, to sensitize the participants on this very vital issue. Every one of us know the problem of sexual harassment. For the last few years, we have been very frequently come across news items in the magazines, newspapers, and even the news print and electronic media about the issue of sexual harassment. What is actually? So there is one definition we have. It is an act aimed towards gender-based discrimination that affects women's right to life and livelihood, and very particularly their dignity. These are all the things are affected by the another gender, to the particularly the female. This will amount to the sexual harassment. It can either be verbal, visual, or physical contact that affects the working condition, creating a hostile work environment. Everyone accepts that only in a conducive environment, the performance of the employee will be more. Only in a conducive environment, the output will be more. If there is a hostile work environment, the performance of the employee will be drastically affected. So this one hand, harassing the women sexually, on the other hand, it decreases or affects the performance of the women employee, that will lead to another more and more complications in the future. It negatively affects the victim's job performance, undermines the victim's personal dignity. Every human being, we have one important right, that is right to dignity. After right to life, what next to right for a human being is right to dignity. So even in the human rights classes also, I always insist this particular right to dignified living. We are here not just to live the life, but to live the life in a dignified way. So that is the one right every human being possesses. But this sexual harassment affects these basic rights. Once your right to dignity is affected, your psychological trauma, psychological pain, mental agony cannot be measured. So this sexual harassment is doing this very thing very purposefully. So sexual harassment has been considered a very negatively influence the performance of the employees. So for this lecture, I have prepared some paper clippings also, so that we can get a complete understanding about the status of sexual harassment and why it is so essential. So this is the things last few days, you are all familiar with the fundamental rights and all. And these rights and all, I don't need to explain. So for most of the resource persons have explained you all the rights. Now we go, this one is in Tamil. This means India earns the 4th position regarding the violence against women. This paper cutting is in Tamil. That means before India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Congo, these 3 countries are there. We are the 4th country regarding the violation against women, harassment against women. So what does it mean? The Congo is there, Afghanistan is there, Pakistan is there. All these 3 countries are completely underdeveloped countries. Their science and technology, their socio-economic positions are all at the bottom level. There, if women's rights are violated, it can be justifiable to that extent. But we in India portray women as a god. We dream in the recent future we are going to be a superpower. But what is the status? India is in the 4th position regarding the violation against women. Next, I move to the next important another paper clipping, which says that 88% of women subjected to sexual harassment at workplace in IT sector. This is a survey. This survey is taken before the Act 2013 has come into existence. This particular paper clipping, this particular newspaper information brings one big fact. That is, you see that the title of the paper clipping, at workplace in IT sector. See, IT sector is the one sector which gets a complete exposure to the outside world, to the developed world, to the advanced world. Even in that IT sector, who is working in the IT sector? Well-educated women. Then who is harassing them? Again, the co-employees, the colleagues. They are also well-educated. So what it shows? Then what about the other sectors? What about the status of women in other sectors? So many sectors are there. Organized sector, unorganized sector. Then we can understand the plight, the status of women in other sectors. There was a survey according to this, the Workplace Sexual Harassment Survey. It was carried out by the Center for Transforming India. It's a non-profit organization in the information technology on BPO, KPO industries. So these revelations are really startling revelations. Here, almost 47% of employees did not know where to report, while 91% of did not report for fear. These two things are most important things that adds a fuel to the sexual harassment. Many of the women do not know where to report, where we can get the solution. Even in the IT sector, even among the educated group, women do not know where to go. Another important factor is 91% of the women in the survey says out of fear they do not comply. Out of fear they do not report. This is the second factor. Even among the educated women, they don't have that awareness to comply. They have the education, they have the degrees, they are earning thousands of rupees as monthly salaries. But why they are afraid of moving to the court or moving to approach the appropriate authority? What obstructs them? One important thing is, in the name of society, in the name of dignity, in the name of etc., these women do not comply, do not approach the appropriate authority. One thing is clear from this, we understand that they are not properly sensitized. This is the one important thing. So that is the reason why, even though they are educated, even though they are getting salaries, even though they are working in IT sector, even though they have the exposure, their behavior is like a women in the unorganized sector. So do we come to a conclusion that the women are the same, that the women remains the same, whether she works in the IT sector, whether she works in unorganized sector, whether she works in as a migrant labor, they remain the same? This question arises. Now we move on to the national capital. Another important information, another important startling revelation. Delhi's working women ready to relocate for safety. Where can they go? At the rural India, women want to go to cities to work. But capital city, Delhi, here we can say that working women, Delhi's working women ready to relocate for safety study. So they are willing to relocate outside of the city, even though they are ready to accepting the pay cuts. Here we have nearly 80% of the respondents opting for day shifts. Normally, women opting for day shifts more than men, even though the night shifts salary is more. Women also want to go for day shifts, even though the salary is less. One big reason is fear of fright. If the working woman is not feeling safe in the national capital itself, then what is the status of women in other areas, in other rural areas, in other towns? This is the situation. It is very alarming. So slowly, gradually, this harassment, nature of this harassment, the spread of harassment is gradually in almost all the sectors, all the cities. No city is safer for women. No town is safer for women. No sector is not safer for women. So these are all the information, these are all the paper clippings, data reveals the exact status of women, working women in India. What kind of working atmosphere these women have. Then you imagine, as I already told, in a hostile environment, how the productivity of the women will come out, how the performance of the women will come out. They always fear the environment is not conducive. How can their productivity, their performance, their skill will come into force? Without their skills, how we can become the superpower as we have been dreaming? So they have the laws, they have the policies, they have the police, they have the regulations, but what the reality is? The reality remains the same even in the capital city in Delhi. Okay, this is the status of women in India. We have seen some 3-4 paper clippings revealing the status of women, working women in India. Then we decide that, okay, in India, the status of working women is poor. Harassment is more at all the sectors, in all the cities. This is uniform even in the developed countries, developing countries, underdeveloped countries. Here, this news clipping says, Silicon Valley women call out culture of harassment. Their accounts underscore how sexual harassment in the tech startup ecosystem is pervasive and ingrained. Silicon Valley, one of the most active business area in the world, in United States of America. United States of America, every youth is dream of going there, getting employed in US. And every one of us feel that America is a dream destination, America where the paradise is, and once if a person works in America, then he or she can get anything. Okay, but these are all a mirage. These are all an inferences. These are all our feelings only. The real data, even in the Silicon Valley, the people themselves claim that there is a harassment, there is a sexual harassment that infringes their freedom, that affects their performance. So from this, we can understand that the harassment remains with the female, always done by male, irrespective of the country, whether the country is developed socially, economically, politically, whatever the thing is, whether the country is underdeveloped, whether the country is developing, irrespective of the status of the country, the harassment at the working place continues. It remains the same, but the percentage may be different. One country may have higher percentage, another country may have lesser percentage. Even though that lesser percentage is not negligible percentage, it also more than that. more than that negligible level. So this is the status. Okay, next another one. A third of UN staffers reported sexual abuse. Study takes into account misconduct over 2 years. It's a very recent data, last year data. UN. It's a world body. It was established in 1945 to prevent a further war, to resolve the disputes through dialogues, and where the highest diplomats assemble, discuss the world policies, world discussions, world decisions, the world level trade, business, international relations, diplomacy, everything is being discussed at the highest level at the UN. Who are there in working in UN? Oh, topmost bureaucrats, topmost diplomats. But there itself, a third of UN staffers, one third. Every third of women staffers reported sexual abuse in the United Nations organization also. Then where the women feel safe, where can a woman go and work in a safe environment? If a woman works in a rural area, the woman wants to go out from the rural area to a town for safer working environment. If the town is working, again, it is not safer, moving to a bigger city. Even that city is not also safer. Then she moves into a developed country. Then finally, excuse me, the UN. So wherever the woman goes, the working environment for a woman is not safer. Harassment continues everywhere, even in the US, even in the UN. So what can be done to eliminate this issue or to counter this problem? Now we come back to India. So these are all the world pictures at different countries, at different level of harassment they have seen. Okay, what is there in Indian situation? In India, the year 1997 is considered one of the important year, a turning point year in the history of women harassment. Until 1997, there was no formal guideline to deal and define the sexual harassment, and those women who experienced sexual harassment had to lodge the complaint through the existing or regular Indian Penal Code Acts like Section 354 and 509, and these sections only. These sections left the interpretation of modesty to the discretion of the police officer. Police officer decides whether this is a punishable offense or not. So this is the scenario up to 1997. Then what has happened in the 1997? Why this year has become a turning point in the history of harassment? 1997, Supreme Court has given a guideline. This guideline is called Vishaka Guidelines. There was a case between the state of Rajasthan and Vishaka, a non-government organization of Rajasthan. So the petition was filed in after Banwari Devi, a social worker in Rajasthan. She was brutally gang raped for stopping a child marriage. So after a few more steps, after the verdict which was against them in the Rajasthan High Court, the case has come to the Supreme Court. In 1997, then Chief Justice of India, J.S. Verma, has given certain guidelines to protect women when they are working. These guidelines are called Vishaka Guidelines. For the first time, it has given a basic definition of what is sexual harassment at workplace and provided guidelines to deal with it. So before that, before this Vishaka Guidelines, there was no clear-cut definition of what amounts to sexual harassment. Before this one, there was no proper guidelines. So this 1997 judgment has given guidelines. Remember, these are all guidelines only. Even in these guidelines, this Vishaka guidelines clearly says what is the sexual harassment. It provided guidelines to deal with the cases. So it was considered as one of the victories to the women movements in India. Here, this Vishaka guidelines bringing all the employers come under the purview of the umbrella. Even the organized sector and unorganized sector, they are holding them responsible for providing safe working environment to women. So this guidelines emphasizes the duty and responsibility of the employer to provide a safe and healthy environment, working environment to the employee. This is the basic duty of the employer. This guidelines applies to all women, students working part-time or full-time, on contract, voluntary organization, and whatever it may be. These guidelines include the following acts of sexual harassment. So again, this guideline clearly demarcates, clearly defines what are all the acts which is amounting to sexual harassment, whether it is a physical contact, whether it is showing pornography, a demand or request for sexual favors, unwelcome physical, verbal, non-verbal, whistling, obscene jokes, comments on physical, whatever it may be. If this comment of, if this touch or if this request affects the basic dignity of the woman and affecting her performance, this will amount to sexual harassment. A very valid, a basic definition was given by this Vishaka guidelines. This guideline stipulated that all organizations would form a compliance committee to look into such allegations. All complaints of sexual harassment by any woman employee would be directed to this committee. Right. Vishaka guidelines have come in 1997. Almost 9 years later, this particular news information has come in 2006. So Vishaka guidelines have given by the Supreme Court. Then what is the status? Whether the working environment improves? After 9 years, this news item says that sexual harassment at workplace continues. Most women not aware of Supreme Court guidelines study in health sector. So initially we have seen one IT sector. Now this survey deals about health sector. So majority of the women do not know where to report, and very particularly majority of the working women do not know about the Vishaka guidelines. Even after 9 years of Supreme Court has given the Vishaka guidelines, majority of the women who are working even in the health sector do not know what is Vishaka guidelines. It's a very important thing. So this one clearly indicates the status of unawareness, the status of sensitization, the status and the requirement of sensitization of women in this particular field. So there was no direct action against perpetrators. Appropriate implementation mechanism also lacking. As I already told you, Vishaka guideline is only a guideline. There was no mechanism established by the Supreme Court or by the respective governments at the state level and the central level to look into the issue. So guidelines remains guidelines if only in the papers of the library of the Supreme Court. It was not implemented and it was not known to the working women also. That's another important thing. So finally, in 2013, Government of India decided to bring an exclusive act based on the Vishaka guidelines of 1997. This act, the Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. So this is the first time an act exclusively to deal with sexual harassment was enacted by the Parliament of India. So this act defines the aggrieved woman of any age, whether employed or not. More than the definition given by Vishaka guidelines, this act has given more elaborate, exhaustive definition who is the woman, who is the working woman. It includes any department, organization, undertaking, establishment, enterprise, institution, office, branch, unity, owned, controlled, semi-owned, substantially financed, funded, any private sector organization or a private venture, undertaking, enterprises, institution, establishment, society, non-government organization. So it gives two important areas. One thing is who is the working woman. Second thing is what is the working place. These two definitions were given clearly by this act. Since we have less than 1 minute, I request the participants, the connection is going to terminate soon. And again, we will re-log in again after the termination of this connection. Thank you, participants, for logging again. I told you this act has exhaustively covered the working place of the women, and very importantly, the definition for harassment. Exhaustive definition for working place and the working women and harassment. All these three definitions have been clearly, exhaustively explained by this act, more than the Vishaka guidelines. The Vishaka guidelines is the foundation, it's a basic thing. It gives a guideline for the government to bring an act. But in 1997, the Vishaka guidelines have come. 16 years later, based on the guidelines of the Vishaka, the government of India enacted the Act 2013. Right. So it has listed the list of harassment. So whatever we have seen in the Vishaka guidelines, almost those harassment list has been included. Some more harassment in the list. Suggestive sounds, touching, patting, staring at women, spreading rumors, name calling, sexual ridicule, direct or indirect threats or bribes. So it's again, it's a big list. This list was given by Act 2013. These are all the harassment list. And the person involved in this act against a woman, this will be considered as a sexual harassment. Again, frequent jokes, stalking a person, attempted or actual sexual assault, bustling, eve-teasing, pervasive displays, letters, notes, telephone calls, material of sexual nature. All these things again amount to sexual harassment by a person to a woman at the working place. So this 2013 has given one complete complaint mechanism. This act has given two mechanisms. In Vishaka guidelines, we have seen one big failure is the Vishaka guidelines do not have its own mechanism to implement the guideline. Again, it is only a guideline. So there was no need of mechanism. That is the reason why even after 13 years or 10 years of Vishaka guidelines, the harassment remains the same and women do not know what the guidelines is. Now this act has a mechanism. There are two committees, local compliance committee at the district and block levels, where the district collector or the deputy collector monitoring the activities. Where at the institutional level, we have an internal compliance committee at the workplace. Every workplace employing 10 or more employees, where it is required to constitute and ICC, that is Internal Compliance Committee. The ICC must have at least 4 members. The presiding officer of the committee should be a woman, and more importantly, one of the members of the ICC should be women. So this is the mechanism has given by the Act 2013 to everywhere, very particularly if 10 or more women employed in a factory, in an industry, or in a small shop. Even in, for example, we are going to a textile shop. We are going to a textile shop, a big textile shop, where we can find some 20, 30 women are working, showing our dresses. There also more than 10 women are working. There also they must establish their own internal compliance committee. So we have a complaining procedure. A complaint can be made by the aggrieved women within 3 months of the date of incident. But the time limit may be extended to further period if there is some incident happens where the aggrieved women cannot come out and make a complaint. But normally 90 days from the incident, the complaint should be made by the victim or on behalf of the victim, anyone can make, but within the 30 days. This is the first step. The step number 2, upon receipt of the complaint, the ICC must proceed to make an inquiry in accordance with the service rules applicable to the respondent in their absence, in accordance with the rules framed under the Act. As per the Act, after receiving the complaint, the committee must initiate inquiries. The third step is the inquiry must be completed within the period of 90 days. That's the one thing. And the next step is the action must be taken in accordance with the provisions of the applicable service rules, or where no service rules exist, in accordance with the rules framed under the Act. So this is the basic complaining procedure, required number of time as per the Act. In case the complaint is malicious, then it may be the committee may recommend that penalty be levied on the complainant in accordance with the applicable service rules. And it doesn't mean that mere inability to substantiate a complaint will not attract action under this provision. Here the duties of the employer. It is given in the Vishaka guidelines also to provide a safe working environment at the workplace, which shall include safety from all the persons with whom a woman comes into contact at the workplace. So the duties of the employer has been clearly demarcated and defined in the Vishaka guidelines also. The same, most of the frames, most of the rules, most of the guidelines given in the Vishaka guidelines have been reflected in the 2013 Act, where it deals with the duties of the employer. Again, the employer must organize awareness programs and workshops to sensitize the women about the existence of the committee and the complaining procedures. One important failure for this one is we have seen that most of the women, whether they are educated or not, do not know the existence of the Act, do not know where to complain. So this Act very particularly emphasizes sensitizing the women in the factory, even in the institution, about the complaining procedures, about the procedures, steps involved in it, about the existence of the committee, the helpline numbers of the committee, all should be displayed, all should be given in detail to the employees of the organization. And provide assistance to women if she chooses to file a criminal complaint also. Again, this Act also imposes penalties to the employer who fails to comply with the provisions of the Act. Right, this Act has come in 2013. This information has given you the idea after 5 years, that is in 2018. More workplace harassment complaints from public sector in 2018. That means after 5 years of the Act has come into existence. At least one woman complaints of harassment workplace every 12 hours in India. Women in the private sector seem safer. In public sector, we have. Data from the National Commission for Women shows that 60% of the total complaints about harassment at the workplace come from the formal organized sector, of which the majority are from those working in the public sector. Private firms have good internal systems that deal with the harassment. So after 2013 Act, the established private firms have established a effective internal compliance committee that prevents more number of harassment at workplace from taking place in that institution. But the complaints are more from public sector. But in 2020, the recent data says that of the respondents who experienced such a harassment at work, 53% did not report to anyone. Here, 70% of the respondents who had approached an internal committee to report sexual harassment at the workplace were not completely satisfied with the outcome. So, internal complaints committee has been established in the organization. But among the women who filed the complaint, 70% of the women, they are not satisfied with the investigation, with the pace of the investigation, with the complaints, with the procedures of the committee. Another 50%, almost 50%, they chose to keep calm. They don't want to complain. Because two things, one is the dignity, another thing is they have a lesson. Some considerable amount of women went to working internal complaints committee. What was the response they have received? They have not received a satisfactory response from the committee. So committee is established, but it does not function according to the satisfactory levels of women. This is there in 2020. Now we come to the another area. That is response of UGC to the Act. 2013, this Act has been enacted. After 2 years of the enactment of this Act, in 2015, University Grants Commission has given regulations, that is UGC Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal of Sexual Harassment of Women Employees and Students in Higher Educational Institutions, Regulations 2015. This regulation again defines what is sexual harassment, what is workplace according to the UGC, according to the higher educational institutions. What is a student? According to this definition, it doesn't mean that a student is studying there. Even if a women student, girl student comes there to buy the application form, he is not at all admitted as a student, but to come to the college, to the university to buy the application form. She also considered as a student according to the definition of this UGC Act, UGC regulations. Again, harassment by third party. A student has come, an employee has come to the college or university, but that girl or woman is harassed not by the employee of the university of the college, but by a person who is not there, third party. That also comes under the definition of harassment. That also comes under the responsibility of the institution. So this UGC regulation has given more broader definition to the sexual harassment, more broader definition to the workplace, more broader definition of a student. So it has established for rules for establishment of ICC, maintenance of campuses, complaint procedures, defining punishment, all these things UGC has made in accordance with the higher education institutions in the country. Directions to the higher educational institutions. All the higher education institutions to organize training and sensitization programs. Even while Professor Satyal sir introduced me, he has told you that in Annamalai University, every year we have been organizing sensitization programs, sensitizing the girl students about the Act, about the procedures, about the existence of internal compliance committee. In our university, we have a separate internal compliance committee, has been functioning as soon as the Act has committee existed. This committee, as per the rules of the Act, the senior most faculty member, women faculty member as the presiding officer, and half of the members in the committee are women. This committee is existing there. So this committee is organizing sensitization program in the Annamalai University to all the faculties. And Sakthivel sir and myself are all, they are all resource persons to sensitize them. What are all the sexual harassment means, and where the compliance committee is there, and their helpline numbers, contact numbers, everything we give them by sensitizing them. So UGC has said that every organization has to organize training and sensitization programs and publicly notifying the provisions against sexual harassment. Special attention to students of third gender. Third gender is another important thing. Some few days back, we have two resource persons in this course talked about the third gender, transgender rights. So this UGC has bring the third gender in its ambit of sexual harassment. This third gender very frequently come across facing the violations of sexual harassment by various agencies. So special attention to the students of third gender has been given in the UGC regulation. Like the Act, it also says that half of the members must be women, chief must be a woman. And another important thing is one from NGO, one member active in the field or associated with the women activism must be appointed as a member. And UGC categorically says that persons in senior administrative positions shall not be the members of ICC, because the VC, the principal, the registrars, they should not be the members of the ICC. So in order to ensure the balance and autonomy of the committee, again the term is 3 years, one member every year retires every year. So the information displayed must be at the prominent places, contact the details of the ICC members, complaint procedures, everything must be displayed at the prominent places of the college, prominent places of the university. So that was the thing. And enable the ICC to vulnerable groups. In the university or a college, we can find some groups or vulnerable groups. They are far away from, by region wise. They are in a minority group. Their caste, their region, their religion, whatever the thing, that makes them more vulnerable. Because of this vulnerability, they often do not have the courage to approach the committee. It is the responsibility of the committee to find out this vulnerable group and make them an approach to find out their problems. This is another addition. So we understand that more than the Act, this particular UGC regulation has given more active, elaborative manners in this Act. The recommendations of the ICC be implemented in a timely manner. And another important thing is all higher education institutions to conduct regular off-yearly review to implementation of their anti-sexual harassment policy. Every 6 months, they have to review the policies. Then counseling services must be institutionalized in all higher education institutions. They must have well-trained full-time counselors and eliminate unsafe places in the campus, eliminating them adequately, well-trained security, concern for safety of women, and again, action against frivolous complaints also be done. Because of want of time, just moving quickly. Then another important feature is SHE-Box. What is SHE-Box? The SHE-Box, S means sexual harassment. E means electronic. This sexual harassment electronic box is an effort of Government of India to provide a single window access to everyone. Any woman facing sexual harassment, whether she is from organized sector or unorganized sector, whatever it may be, through SHE-Box, she can file a complaint. Irrespective of the ICC, just forget about ICC, forget about all the LCC and all, one can file a complaint. This has been devised by the Government of India, Ministry of Women and Child Development. This has been developed. Then how to file a complaint? A small important thing is, once you enter into the website of Ministry of Women and Child Development, there is a place called Register Your Complaint tab. Just click on it. There you have to select the category, whether you are a government employee or a private employee. In case a government employee, you select whether it comes under central government or state government. Then all the columns in the registration form and finally click the submit button. Then a confirmation message will be sent to your registered mail address. Then click on the online link. Then you get the joint password. And finally, you can understand the status of complaint filed by you by generating passwords. So this is an online registration complaint form. This looks like this is the form. Through this only, you have to submit the form. This is a model form. On this, you can get it once you get access into the website. So this is in Tamil. It means that more than 78 cases have been filed in the SHE box. As soon as the SHE box has been established, this information got it from an RTI information, right? This another important feature. This, what about sexual harassment in other countries? Whether do they have an act? In Pakistan, anti-sexual harassment legislation was brought in 2010. But remember, as I told you, even in US, Silicon Valley and all, they have harassment is there. Sexual harassment is there. Working women are affected. But there is no separate exclusive act as we have in India. Even today, the USA, they deal with the Civil Rights Act 1991. That is the only act, even today, that it deals with the sexual harassment also. Then Israeli sexual harassment law in 1998. UK, again, there is no exclusive harassment law. The Discrimination Act 1975, later amended in 1986. That is the only act that deals with the harassment. Again, Federal Act in Switzerland and Denmark, Australia, and the UNO. There we can find different kinds of acts, but very rarely one or two countries have their own exclusive act to deal with the sexual harassment. So these are all the information and basic information about other countries as the time goes up. And I have given you very brief introduction about the Sexual Harassment Act and before the Sexual Harassment Act, the Vishaka guidelines and the definitions and why the Sexual Harassment Act has come, why the Vishaka guidelines have come, and what is the status of women through the several paper clippings in Tamil as well as in English. So with this brief introduction, I just come to the end of the last session. I thank the authorities, especially in Dr. Subramanian sir and Dr. Saktivel sir and the university authorities for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share with some vital information with you. I think this is the time for next session. Thank you one and all.